On Japan's Pacific coast sits what's regarded as the nation's most dangerous nuclear power plant. When the Hamaoka facility was designed and built, the reactors were placed carefully around fault lines which lie directly beneath. Since it started operating in 1976, it's been dogged by problems. So much so that the operator, Chubu Electric Power Company, decommissioned 2 of its reactors. Minoru Ito has lived near the plant since it was opened. He believes it and the rest of Japan's nuclear stations should be shut down permanently after the earthquake and tsunami at Fukushima.
In Japan we have so many earthquakes. Nuclear plants shouldn't exist. If the government continues with nuclear energy, it will ruin Japan.
This wall is designed to protect the power station from a tsunami. It's about 6 meters high. Most estimates put the wave which struck the Fukushima plant at around 10 meters, so clearly this is no longer big enough. Chubu Electric is planning to double the size of the wall to 12 meters. Less than 200 kilometers to the north lies Japan's capital, where the operator of the crippled Fukushima plant is coming under increasing pressure. A small crowd gathered outside the headquarters of the Tokyo Electric Power Company to voice their anger at its handling of the crisis. The protests seemed to go completely unnoticed by the Japanese media, but across the road there were plenty of other plain-clothed bystanders. They watched and filmed whoever turned up, but were camera-shy themselves. The Japanese journalists could be found inside the TEPCO building, waiting for the latest update from management. One reporter who wasn't there was Takashi Uesugi. He's a freelancer who's now out of work after he criticized TEPCO for mistakes made after the tsunami struck.
The Japanese mass media is basically sponsored by TEPCO through advertising. So far, nobody from the mass media has criticized TEPCO, only freelancers.
The disaster at Fukushima has prompted the Japan government to review its energy policy. It's unlikely to abandon nuclear power altogether, but the uncertainty may see some companies hedge their bets and invest more in alternative sources. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera, Hamaoka, Japan.
Alright YouTube, Freedom for Kaz here. Hey, what's going on? We made it through the weekend. The Japanese crisis is still going on, and in fact it's getting to a level of craziness. I just don't understand it. You know, they're really using some very odd techniques to stop this radiation, including now they're using bath salts to find the leaks that are going into the ocean. I don't understand the use of that, but it seems kind of odd. You know, and they finally admit that, yeah, the radiation has been going into the Pacific Ocean since day one, which is what we pretty much already knew. It was always suspected. They never really came out and said it until now. But the part that I don't understand is why it's taken so long to get to a resolution here. I mean, I understand that the radiation is just immense, majorly immense. But on the other hand, it just seems a little long. Now, yesterday they did openly come out and say it's going to take a minimum of 3 months to even cap this thing. And that's not even the end solution. That's just to cap it. That's just to reduce the radiation. That's not even to stop the radiation. That's just to reduce it, which I find rather amazing as well. Now, again, they are using some very, very crazy things to use this. And, you know, it says now that they are checking radiation in babies. They've already checked over 900 infants and children. And, you know, they're not really releasing what they're finding as far as what children have been radiated and who hasn't. It's kind of scary as well. Now, this is what kills me, is that the engineers pin hopes on a new tactic to stop the nuclear plant leak. This was out of Tokyo yesterday. Engineers pinned their hopes on chemicals, sawdust, and shredded newspaper to stop the highly radioactive water pouring into the ocean from Japan's tsunami-ravaged nuclear plant on Sunday. Well, they released this on Sunday. It didn't happen on Sunday. But anyway, you know, it seems like to me they're using sawdust and shredded newspaper. Are they just going to paper mache the reactor together? I know that Negro Magic 2012 does a great job with paper mache. You know, his artwork is phenomenal. Check out his channel. But paper mache? I don't think that's going to hold the radiation in. I think that's just kind of crazy. Again, links will be underneath as well. And what's happened is that just hundreds of tent cities have popped up. And, you know, people who haven't prepared are now in a position to where they should have prepared. In Japan, I know it's an extremely dense population. It's probably much harder to prepare in Japan than here in the United States. So those in the United States should probably take advantage of being a prepper and getting ready. You know, it just, the water, the water that's contaminated is the tap water, and it's in the radiation is into the land. The radiation is going directly into the ocean. I've done some videos earlier on that. I did a video on the Pacific Ocean, and amazingly enough, as humans, we eat over 300 species of seafood out of the Pacific Ocean. And I also did a documentary on Bikini Island and compared that to Japan as well. You may want to go back into my my uploads and check out some previous videos if this is the first video of mine that you're viewing. I've done some intensive research on this, and it's just shocking as to how this is turning out. Now, they found the 2 dead bodies, God rest their soul, of the nuclear plant workers. Again, it just kind of reminds me of the BP Gulf oil situation, where they really can't seem to be working in any one given direction. It seems like they're going in many directions at the same time, but coming up with no answers. So, you know, I just don't understand it. In this last article here, you know, a lot of other people outside of the U.S. and Japan are saying that this accident has surpassed the 3 Mile Island incident and is equal to, if not greater than, the Chernobyl accident, and I have to agree. If they're not going to be able to do anything for 3 months in regards to the radiation spilling into the tap water, the ground, and the Pacific Ocean, 3 months of a constant barrage, 24/7. You people don't even have the idea of what magnitude that is. You know, just a few footnotes here before I wrap this video up. I think the one thing that really disturbed me the most is the fact here is that they mixed sawdust and newspaper with polymers and cement and trying to seal the crack in the concrete pit at Reactor 2 where the radioactive water has been seeping into the sea. We're hoping that the polymers would act like a diaper, but are yet to see a visible effect. And my question is, okay, that's fine. What if it does work as a diaper? Okay, well, let's say it does absorb all the radiation. Now you have all the radiation in the sawdust and the newspaper. Okay, what are you going to do with this stuff now? Now you have radiated sawdust and newspaper. It doesn't really do anything. I mean, you're just taking the radiation from point A and putting it in point B, but the radiation is still there. I don't know, folks. This just seems like it's way out of control.
To Japan now, though, their radiation levels in the seawater near the Fukushima plant continue to rise. They're now more than 3,500 times higher than normal. Radioactive materials also been detected in soil at the facility. Japan's government has described the situation as serious and unpredictable. Workers have been unsuccessfully trying to restore the plant's cooling system in what's now the worst atomic crisis since Chernobyl. There's been some debate, too, over whether there are any similarities between the two events. Let's discuss that. I'm joined by Professor Christopher Busby of the European Committee on Radiation Risk. Sir, thanks for being with us tonight. Initially, when this disaster started, we were told, according to most media reports, that it was all very unlike the terrible events we witnessed in Chernobyl. You're saying different. Why?
Well, I said right from the beginning that this was a Chernobyl-level disaster because it was quite clear to me at that time, having looked at the explosions, that there were major problems with those reactor pressure vessels, and it now turns out that there are, and that at least one of them is cracked and there's fuel all over the place. The similarities with Chernobyl are quite real, and in fact, in a way, this is a much worse accident than Chernobyl, and the reason is that there are a lot of people living nearby. The population of the 100-kilometer zone is about 3 million, and out to 200 kilometers there's another 7 million people, and the contamination out to those distances, according to the IAEA, is about 1 megabecquerel per square meter. Now that's an awful lot of radiation. That's 1 million disintegrations per second per square meter of land, which is about twice as high as the Chernobyl exclusion zone. So there are going to be an awful lot of deaths, an awful lot of cancers.
Professor, can you just clarify for me, the reason that most people, most of the officials said in the first place it wasn't like Chernobyl is because, unlike Chernobyl, there was containment over the reactors here in all of these. We think they're still intact, most of them anyway, and at those reactors, so that's why people were saying it's nowhere near as bad as Chernobyl. There was no huge, large-scale explosion. You're saying this is different. I just want to clarify it.
Well, anyone who looked at the video footage of those explosions wouldn't have said that there was no large-scale explosion.
Well, they said that's a hydrogen explosion, not a nuclear explosion.
Well, it was a hydrogen explosion in Chernobyl as well, actually, so it was the same thing, although there have been some questions about whether it was a hydrogen explosion then. But the other point that you've missed, or that people missed, is that there were a huge number of spent fuel rods sitting right on top of the reactor. So when it exploded, and everybody saw it exploding, all of those fuel rods went up in the air. And anyway, as we now know, it has melted down. So I don't think it suddenly melted down yesterday.
Is this
I think that thing was split right from the beginning.
Is this a worst-case scenario then, as you see it, or could it get worse than this? And what about the poor people that have to clean this up? They were called liquidators in Chernobyl. Even to this day, 25 years on, we're seeing Japanese human beings risking their lives. Do you think anything could have been learned?
I don't think anything could be done. The problem is that under those very high radiation fields, robots don't work, and they certainly found that at Chernobyl. At Chernobyl, they paid huge amount of money to the Germans to provide robots to go in there and remove the pieces of fuel, and the robots just packed up. They didn't work, because under those radiation fields, the electronics don't work. So you have to use people. Unfortunately, I don't think that even with the people there's much that they can do. The thing is out of control, and we have a sort of science fiction scenario now. I think it's going to be very, very bad for Japan, but at the moment I don't think it's going to be quite as bad for the rest of the world. Luckily, because there's a very large Pacific Ocean between Japan and the next major landmass, although I have to say there are increases in radioactivity occurring now in California, just in the last information in the last few hours.
So really what you're saying is we're not being told maybe the full picture as it's developing. And what about Tokyo? What fate lies ahead for Tokyo with its huge population?
Well, I have got data that shows that there are increases in radioactivity even to the south of Tokyo. So given the large population of Tokyo and the population in the next section close to the site, there have been exposures to radionuclides. The main problem, of course, is not the radionuclides that show up on the gamma radiation monitoring systems, but the alpha-emitting radionuclides like plutonium and uranium, because these are invisible. They're not being detected. And I have to say that we're not being told everything. And right from the beginning, we weren't being told everything. And this is one thing that happened with Chernobyl as well. That is another parallel between these two situations, is that we don't get told anything, and the truth slowly comes out as if it's being dragged out of people.
How much of a blow has this been for the nuclear industry, or is it too difficult to say at this time?
Well, I would hope that it would mean that the nuclear industry was finished. I mean, we can't. This is certainly going to, in my opinion, it's going to finish the north of Japan off. I don't see what they can do about it. They're going to have a very large exclusion zone. The cost is going to be absolutely phenomenal. So the nuclear industry, I think, is finished. But then I thought that after Chernobyl, to be honest. And what happened there was that there was a massive cover-up, an international cover-up by the nuclear lobby of all the health effects of the Chernobyl accident, which is only just coming out now. We now know, as a result of research, that at least 1 million people have died as a result of the Chernobyl accident. Yet we still have the nuclear industry telling us that only a few liquidators died and there really wasn't any problem except thyroid cancer in a few children, and that can be cured. That was a pack of lies, and I think we're going to get another pack of lies after this, so people should watch out.
Professor Christopher Busby, Scientific Secretary of the European Committee on Radiation Risks, as you are. Thanks for being on RT tonight. Appreciate it.